Okay, hi everyone. Glass half dead here. Look, we all know what's going on in 40k. Leagues of Votan, tournaments, TOs, banning the codex. We could talk about bans, but the truth is, we don't need bans in Kill Team. Right? Like, we just don't. In fact, I just recorded a 30-minute video talking about bans in Kill Team, and I got to the end, and I was like, I've just said, no, we don't need bans in Kill Team. What a boring video. So instead, I want to talk about power creep, and I want to talk about the amazing the amazing state that Kill Team is in, like, compared to 40k. I want to be super clear. This video is essentially me just fluffing Kill Team. I'm recording this literally right after recording a video about possibly whether or not we should have bans. And so I'm kind of on the high of having just like the endorphin rush of having completed a video without having actually done that. So if you're wondering why you're coming into this and like, why is Glass just saying good things? I'm not on YouTube for that kind of content. I want the hate. I want vitriol. I want salt. It's not going to be here. I'm sorry. I do genuinely apologize. Although if you're a Patreon, you can go look at that video, presumably now, tomorrow, that kind of time, and see what I actually said in regard to bans for Kill Team. Chapesses, we're in such a good state in Kill Team. So, let me take you back to Nakmund. No, sorry, Chownath. Let me take you back to the halcyon days of the Chownath drop. For those of you unfamiliar, day 1, Compendium, Vet Guard, Commandos. Day 2, Hunter Glade. Whoops. Day 3, like day 60, day 90. Chownath, Vet Guard, Pathfinders. Do you remember those days? I just said Vet Guard, didn't I? I meant Novitiates. Sorry. All humans are the same to me. I'm a Xenos man myself. What can I say? Yeah, so 40k has a huge power creep problem. This is undisputable. The fact that they're going to consider, like, as a community banning and, like, homebrew ruling the tournament scene, that's them, whatever. We're not going to talk about that. But certainly Games Workshop is pretty famous for, as many are, it's not necessarily a dig at them, but for power creep in their rules. Because that's how you sell rules to a certain percentage of their player base. There are some people that genuinely meta chase. Slaves to the meta slaves, as I call them. They want to win a tournament. They will do that, however, if that means buying an all-new army, taking it while it's broken, so within the first 3 months before an FAQ drops, and playing it. They will do that, and they're totally fine with it. They just want to win that tournament, and I say good for them. That's how they get their fun. They will then probably go on and sell that army. Cool. That's fine. However, there are many that just want to play a good game. And GW, pretty famous for that power creep. Sells to a percentage of the player base. Cool. There was a lot of fear when Chownath dropped that this game, Kill Team, was going to be all about the power creep as well. Because, if you've forgotten, if you're unaware of the current stats, Novitiates and Pathfinders are really good still. So imagine how we were vibing, right? Imagine the vibe. We had Compendium, and it seemed like they were pushing those rules hard to go out, spend your dollary dues on the specialist teams. And a lot of people don't like that. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought it was pretty obvious that's how the game's going to work. Compendium is you're holding over to the next thing, but you're supposed to be playing with the specialist team, so whatever, I didn't have an issue. I accepted it. A lot of people very bitter about that. Understandably so, whatever, I don't care. So, you've bought your Compendium. Suddenly, power creep in the form of the specialist teams are stronger. So you're like, you know what? I'm a Grey Knight player. Oh man, I really wanted to just play Grey Knights this edition, but they suck. Like, they are on their knees in front of the big, moving on. Of the Vet Guard. The Vet Guard, the Krieg, they're memeable. They're everybody loves them. And I have to play them. If I want to win, I have to play a specialist team. So I've gone from Compendium to any specialist team. And of course, the two you have access to, Vet Guard, Commandos. Whatever. Okay, well, Commandos are absolutely dominating everything. Go back and look at those first battle reports. Commandos dominated and won every single battle report for like the first month of gaming. Until we began to learn to play the game a little bit, right? So, you got your Commandos dominated. So you jump to Commandos. Great, cool. You then have the next big box release. What's that? We've got Pathfinders. We've got Novitiates. First things first, Pathfinders. Oh, for those of you unaware, these two teams are still the two top teams. In fact, if you like have to pick a team, really, Pathfinders, Novitiates, Vet Guard are like your three teams to go with. Those are all solid bets. Nice. But that's kind of the problem. We started out with the three strongest teams being released as the first three teams, and everything since then has been arguably a tier below them. You know, like I'm not saying they're the easiest teams to play, but I'm saying when it comes to actual tournament scoring, those are the teams, right? There are others. They're not the only ones, but those are safe bets because they've been around for a while and they're good, they're strong. We started the game, Compendium, Commandos, the best things in the game. And so everybody thought Kill Team is, just like 40k, it's power creep. If you want to have a chance at winning, you have to buy the new team. Can you remember what the next teams were? We went Octarius, Chaunath, Nakmund. What was Nakmund? That was Corsairs, Legionary. Interesting. We then had Morok, where we had... sorry, I should probably talk about Corsairs and Legionary. Corsairs are such a strange one. I think, from our latest data, Corsairs are like the baseline team. They're like bang on like 50% win rates. Like they're doing, and they're relatively popular, so they're like in a really good position. So they're actually like a perfect team, kind of weirdly. But then we have Legionaries. Now, Legionaries are getting a lot of play, and they're doing pretty well, but they're also doing pretty well for several reasons, partly because they get a lot of play, but also I think they are generally relatively simple to play in the sense that you kind of just run forwards and kill stuff. They're all melee. Well, that's not entirely true. They've obviously got good shooting where they need good shooting. So they're pretty obvious what the models do, so not too much thought's required. Low model count team, they can win okay. But they're not better than Pathfinders, Novitiates, or Vet Guard. So suddenly, well, hold on. Maybe they were just misplaced. They were just missteps along the GW train of overpowering their game, of power creep, right? Cool, yeah, maybe, sure. So what are the next two teams? Can anybody remember what Morok had? I mean, that was only like 4 months ago, so I assume we can all remember that it was the Phobos Strike team and the Blooded. Now, I don't know if you guys have looked at the stats. You probably have if you're watching my channel, but let me tell you this. Everybody thinks that the Blooded are one of the worst teams in the game. They're probably right, but they're wrong because actually the worst team in the game is Phobos. It seems. So, specialist teams, right? And that's not entirely true, actually. I don't think the Phobos are actually the worst team in the game, but they're certainly performing that way right now. So, we've gone from, let's assume that the start is here. That's where we are. We then go up to Chaunath, way off the screen, way up here. God damn, what's it doing up there, right? We come back down to Nakmund. It's pretty on par, actually, with Octarius. Yes, Vet Guard are super strong, but then Commandos pull it down a bit, and they're actually, bizarrely, one of the weaker teams now. So it's pretty average. Then we get Morok down here. Okay, down here, cool. And now we have Into the Dark. And you know what? I haven't heard a single person say the word power creep once. Genuinely. So I still troll through Reddits, Facebooks, Discords. I haven't heard a single person say this is GW power creep. Even when you account for all of the annual teams going into it as well, I haven't heard a single person say this is power creep. Maybe I'm missing it, maybe I'm wrong, but I legitimately have not heard a single accusation. Do you know how good that is? To have not a single person claim that what pushes a lot of people away, at least online, from playing 40k is also happening in our game. That feels pretty good. Now, you know, you can never please everybody, right? So you still get some people that say Corsairs are too bad, when actually, you know, and like they need a buff. They need that 10th model. They need that second gunner, heavy gunner, right? I was like, I totally get that. As a bad player, I'm like, yes, if I were to play Corsairs, I would need that to win. Minimum, right? But it's like, actually, by the stats, they don't need that. So you still get people that, you get the Kroot lovers that look at Kroot and say, you know what, they're weak. They're undertuned. I want them to have a buff. Why is GW murdering my dreams? Why is GW unaliving everything that is my life? When actually it's like, well, no, they're just not giving you power creep. They're making you have to actually be able to play the game to, you know, do that. Pretty good, all things considered. So there you go. I don't know. I just wanted to. There you go. Again, this little video has come off the back of a should the community ban teams in Kill Team? Again, patrons can go check that out. And just me saying, you know what, Kill Team's in a really solid place. I'm not saying it's perfect. You know, there are still outliers, both up and down. Some things need a buff, some things need a nerf. Almost certainly. But I think if you're just an average player, you pretty much can safely pick any team. You're going to have a hard time with some teams. Some teams are harder to play. There's no doubt about that. And some teams are easier to play. I've talked about this before, about, you know, tier skipping teams, essentially. And that's all true. But the one thing I think we can safely say, and I don't think I will get any disagreement about this, who knows, maybe I'm completely wrong, and Gellerpox and Elucidating Starstriders and Kroot and Imperial Breaches are just going to completely defy everyone's expectations. And they're going to be totally OP broken. But I think that we can safely say, and you won't have anybody saying anything other than this, Kill Team does not have power creep. Yeah, there you go. That's all I wanted to say. I think that's really cool. There you go. I will say though, just on a minor aside, for the 40k side, it's really good actually that they're considering banning codexes until they've had their first balance pass. And I do think that it's something that we could, as a community, consider going forwards if Kill Team has power creep, but it clearly doesn't. So why would we, right? Like, it's all fine. If it happens, it happens. We can look at it. But I really don't think it's going to happen. I mean, look, we don't know what the next teams are. We don't know if we're ever getting a White Dwarf team again, because that's taken a while to come out. We don't know if we're getting more free teams, like the Intercession Squad. But so far, I have nothing to complain about in regards to balance power. Look, anybody out there doing a tier list is probably going to complain at some point about how strong some things are. But actually, that's for content. They're all liars. We're all liars. If you're making content, you're a liar. Put that on a t-shirt. Like, things are fine. There are some very strong teams. There are some teams that need a bit of help. There's no doubt about that. I would like to see another balance pass, a few more tweaks put into the game. I do hope that's coming soon. I'll probably do another video about what I want there. But anyway, guys, girls, others, stay gangster. Kill Team's in a solid place. No power creep. Every time you go and you see 40k players complaining about power creep, about being a meta slave, say, haha, I play Kill Team, loser.